Krishna Paramatma gives 20 necessary and sufficient characteristics of any sadhaka who wants to realize perfection, who wants to come near him. That means, in my interpretation, realizing perfection in his activities. And of course, these characteristics described here are stated several times in Bhagavad Gita. One interesting feature of Bhagavad Gita is that he keeps on repeating the prameyas and theories and prescriptions in different forms. So, because ultimate objective of his is to induce Arjuna, and through Arjuna all of us to be prepared to do our prescribed functions in the proper modality. So, he does not mind repeating the same things, but in different colors, in different frameworks. We do not realize, but still when we start analyzing, we find that many points are stated earlier also. So, he describes the same necessary and sufficient conditions when he is defining Sthita Prajna.
And Daivasara Sampad
Vibhaga. Later on in Daivasara Sampad Vibhaga, the same points come, and also in prescribing Dhyana Yoga, then the performance of karma. Many times these features that are required here to achieve perfection or to go near Paramatma, to understand Paramatma, are stated. That means these are all eternally valid principles of life. Not only here, I want to spend some time later in telling you how, when preaching to Uddhava, in Bhagavata, in the 11th Adhyaya, you get Bhagavad Gita Upadesha, almost Gita Upadesha to Uddhava. Uddhava says, I will come with you, I can't stay without you, please take me also along with you. So, there is a very sort of stoic scene when Uddhava is unwilling to stay back and wants to go with Krishna. But Krishna makes all out efforts to ensure that Uddhava stays back and asks him to go and stay in Badarikashrama. He says, you have a lot of things to do in Kali Yuga. That time he preaches almost all the messages of Bhagavad Gita, and in some places he says, this is what the same question which Arjuna asked me, and I have answered in this manner, and so on. So, this Sthita Prajnatva, then Dhyayato Vishayan Punsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Samoha Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhramashad Buddhinacho Buddhinashat Pranasyati, all these things, and Sattva-guna, Rajo-guna, Tamo-guna. I am not elaborating on them because we have done that several times to say that that tells us a very scientific, logical sequence of things how we can destroy ourselves. By getting attached to an object, developing a liking for it, always becoming passionate about it. If you don't get it, getting angry. Then if you don't still get it, trying to adopt certain dubious methods to acquire it. And once you are engaged in this, you would forget all norms and values of life. When values of life are collapsing, your buddhi also gets collapsed, and then you will be totally destroyed. That is how he gives a very logical, very scientific method of doing wrongs, and we see so many instances of that sequence in our own life. So, Krishna preaches Uddhava also the same thing, and I get similar prescriptions and preachings by Bhishma Raja to Dharmaraja in the Anushasana Parva, and I see the same kind of messages in a very cryptic manner in Kautilya's Artha Sutras. Kautilya's Artha Sutras also, but I have an intention of getting into them directly by quoting the particular references, but right now we will not deviate. We will consider these 20 necessary and sufficient conditions for a sadhaka to be eligible to understand Kshetrajna. These are all called as eligibility conditions. In our system, emphasis is given, lot of emphasis is given on eligibility conditions. That is why it appears as if some people were not allowed to get into certain professions or certain activities. The emphasis is more on eligibility conditions, not on blocking them by veto power, more of eligibility conditions. No, even on Brahma Sutras, you have got Athato Brahma Jijnasa. The first word is Atha. Atha means Adhyayana Shamadamadi Adhikara Sampattanantaram Ataha Mokshakya Phalasadbhavat Om Brahmanaha Gunaparipurnasya Vishnoho Jijnasa Kartavya iti Seshaha. So the first thing is on Shamadamadi Adhikara Sampattanantaram. And again I have mentioned earlier, the word Adhikara is used in the most appropriate manner in our tradition. Whereas in our present system, the rights and duties, Adhikara and Kartavya, have been used very confusing way, in the very confusing way. Whenever somebody becomes an Adhikari, he starts looking for his privileges, whereas Adhikara means responsibility. So if somebody becomes a senior Adhikari, he has to be prepared to fulfill many of his responsibilities. His privileges and rights come later, come as a corollary, but the word Adhikara means the responsibilities. You see, even in our constitution framers, first they put a chapter on fundamental rights, but they put the chapter on fundamental duties after almost a decade, as many of you know. So they did not realize that fulfillment of rights requires the performance of duties, and both are interrelated with each other. So performance of duties also enables you to get your rights in the modern meaning of the word rights or Adhikara.
Svesve karmanya
Abhirataha samsiddhim labhate naraha. Absolutely, yeah. So the Adhikara is in the traditional jargon used as the necessary and sufficient conditions for fulfilling your responsibilities. If you have to be eligible for getting the Brahma Jnana, then you should have Adhyayana, Shama, Dama, Niyamana, all these are required.
Even in Shakteya, sir, they give emphasis upon getting these qualities to purify the Antahkarana.
Yes, absolutely.
Once the Antahkaranas are purified, your Chitta can be a seat
Absolutely.
for the
Paramatma,
goddess,
for God.
purifying principles.
Absolutely, purifying principles.
Yes, sir.
They are very necessary
Yes, sir.
to make your life become disciplined.
Yes, sir.
You see, if I say I can do whatever I like,
Antahkarana Sodhana Samskara.
Antahkarana Chodhana Samskara. Here also he says Antahkarana Shuddhi. Even after you do Nivritta Karmanusthana, all your duties in the Nivritta Karmanusthana framework, you should have Antahkarana Shuddhi as a corollary. So I tell many times, that you may do your puja for 2 hours, 3 hours, but at the end of the puja, again you start hitting everyone, shouting at everyone, and having craze for more and more, then your puja had not given you the Antahkarana Shuddhi. So the emphasis in our tradition is on the Antahkarana Shuddhi, which should come as a result of the rituals. Rituals are not end in themselves. I can very boldly state in the presence of even the traditionalists. They also agree that rituals are a means to get Antahkarana Shuddhi and thereby to a higher level of your robustness of your personality. You see, you become eligible for Tattva Jnana, for Paramatma Jnana, and then also for realizing perfection in your own work.
Is it possible to achieve all these things even without rituals?
That's a good question, very good question, very appropriate question. But to think that these rituals are not necessary and I can achieve the Antahkarana Shuddhi without, some rituals have become too much ritualistic, in the sense we perform them without knowing their significance, their meaning. So at that time, because such things have happened too much in the society, such questions arise. Can we achieve Antahkarana Shuddhi without the rituals? You see? But if you perform your rituals with proper understanding of the mantras, proper understanding of the importance of each action, then Antahkarana Shuddhi becomes facilitated. Rituals are facilitators for Antahkarana Shuddhi. But to claim that I can get Antahkarana Shuddhi without rituals is not very rational. because it has been proven from time immemorial that certain amount of disciplining of life. You may not do all the rituals in one life. You see, take for instance the simple ritual of Sandhya Vandanam. Okay, Sandhya Vandanam is such a profound discipline of life. You see, you start by making sankalpa. You start by quoting your own ancestors, the rishis, Bharadwaja, Utrodbhava. Then you start quoting the entire time sequence. You see, Sritavaraha,
Brahmana, Dvitiya Varaha Kalpe, Payasvadavan,
Ashtavinshitame Kaliyuge, Prasamacharano, Prasamacharane. So, this makes you conscious of your position in the time sequence. It also makes you conscious of your family sequence. And we take the name of our rishis to express our gratitude. And the first thing is supposed to do sankalpa, you see. And after doing sankalpa, you start offering the arghya. See, these are all ritualistic to bring in you certain emotions in life. Suppose you do Satyanarayana Puja or Lakshmi Puja. You worship Satyanarayana with Shodashopachara Pujas. What are those Shodashopachara Pujas? They are very simple. But that by doing Shodashopachara Puja, you get a feeling of modesty in your attitudes. First thing is to give him asana. Second thing is to give him padya, that is water to wash his feet, as if a guest has come to your house.
Yes, sir.
Yes, guest only. We have to treat it like that.
Sir.
If people do it without understanding this, then you don't get that feeling of enjoying the ritual, you see. Then you give arghya. You are supposed to give madhuparka. That means some good. You know, if you go to Gujarat side or Maharashtra side, first thing is they give good and pani. Good pani apo. Madhuparka. So jentuppa, see, honey. So you first give him some for what they call in Mangalore side bayarike, you know, something to quench their thirst, something. So we have treated a guest coming here, okay. And then after doing madhuparka, panchamrita snana, then punarachamana, then shuddhodaka snana, punarachamana, then yajnopavita dharana, then achamana, then vastradana, then achamana, then you give pushpa, ashtottara shatanama puja, pada puja, anga puja, so many, you know, dhupa deepa naivedya you get. Now, why I say is that this is a ritual. If you do it as a ritual, then you won't enjoy it. But if you do it as a training for you and to your family members as to how you should treat your atithi, any person coming to your home with respect, with adoration, with concern, with facilitation, then your whole lifestyle becomes different. Same is Gayatri mantra. Since you asked the question, I have to answer it by saying, suppose I get the purity of my mind without doing Gayatri Japa every day. Try it, you do it. There is no harm encouraging anybody. I am not saying you encouraging anybody to do it without that. But if you do it with proper understanding of Gayatri Mantra Japa, then your ability to realize it perfectly, more perfectly, would be much greater. This is the message. But the important point there is you have to do every ritual with proper understanding. Marriage is a ritual. How many Purohitas explain to the budding couple the importance of Saptapadi? See, Saptapadi is a ritual. But because you are not committed to Saptapadi, the marriages get broken. But if you consider it as a very religious, sacrosanct bondage between the boy and the girl throughout the life for Grahasthashrama Dharma Paripalane, then you have much more value added to your lifestyle. So, you can decry rituals, but cannot decry their importance in providing to you the scope for Antahkarana Shuddhi. If properly done, they do definitely help in having, discipline. For instance, to give only the personal example, since we are digressing a little bit, my father used to get at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we all used to get 4 o'clock. Morning thing only study of Sanskrit and Shastras and so on. And we never take any tea, coffee in the morning. No tea was introduced in our house. No cups and saucers anyway. Now of course time has changed, my lifestyle also has changed. But only after you do snana, sandhyavandana, puja, you get the discipline, you get into the habit of taking tea. Contrast with that, with the modern tendency, but only in short I can say that they have a value to give to you in life, a discipline to give to you in life, a contribution to improving your attitudes in life if properly done. And if anybody claims that he can achieve all those things without rituals, one can say good, go ahead, but we only can say that they would help you in getting towards them much better. That is why here the emphasis throughout Bhagavad Gita is not on rituals. See, even on yajna, he says all activities are yajnas. So he doesn't talk much only on throwing of ablutions in the fire as yajna. Saha yajna praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadhvam eshavostuvishta kamadhuk devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantuvaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah paramavapchatha ishtan bhogan nivo devaha dasyante yajna bhavitaha tayirdattan apradayebhyo yobhumte stena evasaha. So he had brought in this 7 or 8 slokas such a profound discipline for every activity of ours. So you consider every activity as yajna. Breathing is yajna, eating is yajna, winking our eyes is yajna, sleeping is yajna, everything is considered in the framework of yajna. And you perform these yajnas with a feeling of divinity in it. That is, every activity is governed by a divine entity, and you do your activity to please that divine entity. Again, you can question why divine entity. It is only to bring a certain attitude of modesty, certain attitude of simplicity in your approach to life, you see. And then he says you express gratitude to those divine powers before you start using the objects of your creation or your production, like that. Now here he gives, as we said, 20 necessary and sufficient conditions to be eligible to go near Paramatma, go near Kshetrajna. What are those? Very interesting. And I would like each one of you to contribute some practical examples in it if possible. So, amanitvam. See, one characteristic is, that is, atmanaha slaghana rahityam. Amanitvam means not having a tendency to praise oneself too much. Obviously, many times we have a tendency to talk about ourselves. If you keep on doing that repeatedly, what happens? If you keep on repeating, either the people would get bored with it, or you yourself feel that I am doing injustice to myself, I am not on the right path. So there the sin comes, the negative thinking creeps in when you keep on praising yourself in the midst of the others.
An illustration is there, sir, in the Ramayana. Actually, while Rama was in private talk with Durvasa, Lakshmana enters there. When he enters, whoever enters in this private talk should be beheaded.
Yes.
It was the condition.
Yeah.
So, under such condition, Lakshmana enters. That's why he prepared to be beheaded. Then Rama says, and Durvasa also suggests, you need not get beheaded.
Ban him too.
But praise yourself. Self-praise itself is equal to suicide. That's why praise yourself.
Okay.
He was given a chance to praise himself. There I helped, there I helped, there I helped.
Lakshmana.
Like that, he had enlisted all his
Lakshmana
qualities.
says that because of me, Rama could able to come back and get you. So that means,
so
I know, Ramayana, Valmiki
Sir,
Ramayana.
only under such circumstances one can praise himself. So praising oneself is
praising
suicidal.
oneself is suicidal, means that it is degrading yourself.
Yes.
It's not a contributor to your greatness,
Yes, sir.
but it is a contributor to your own degradation.
In corporate world, normally what we can say is, suppose if you are praising too much about your product, the unique selling proposition of your product, or maybe the speciality of your product, that means you are releasing your secret to your competitor. So that itself is going to kill you. So management.
No, that comes in the Kautilya's Artha Sutras also.
Okay.
So you must keep all your thoughts based upon your internal discussions as secret as possible. So these are two good examples of saying that self-praise is not self-praise is not a good thing for moving towards perfection or moving towards a blissful state. Slaghana rahityam. Then adambhitvam. Adambhitvam, again Raghavendra Swamigalu gives very beautiful definitions for each of these terms. Atma alpatvam jnatva api mahatva pradarshanam dambhaha. Tadrahityam adambhitvam. That means you know that you are not capable or you are not worthy of a certain situation. You know you are very small in relation to the proposition that is being put forward to you, but still you show as if you are much above that. You are hypocrisy. Atmana alpatvam jnatva api mahatva pradarshanam dambhaha. We see many examples of this in our everyday life. So many people show off even though they know they are not knowledgeable about it. In the ancient system, dambha was very much limited. I have got the example in the Shatprashna Upanishad. The Shishyas ask one of the rishis about certain prameya. Then that rishi, Guru, says, I don't know about it. So another rishi will come this way, you ask him. Which teacher of the present times says this openly in the class? I don't know that. He would at least show us as if he knows it, or he counters the student by asking certain difficult questions to him, so that his question is drowned in the midst of this conversation. So there is a certain kind of show-offness that rules, and we see many of these attitudes in our so-called modernist seminars. Even though you have not read an article or a book, you always say, I read it, yes, in that it's very profoundly stated that this is the thing. So Atma Alpatvam, these attitudes have come in such a natural way, that is why we are ruining ourselves. We are moving towards less and less happy and efficient system of existence. Because
particularly while performing dana, dharmardham danam kuru natu dambardham.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. In Sattvika dana it is stated, and in Tamasa dana it is stated that you will do it only to show off. You are right, yes. Atma alpatvam jnatva api mahatva pradarshanam dambhaha tadrahityam adambhitvam. Then kshantihi, sahishnutvam. You should always be tolerant to the mistakes done by the others. Don't immediately jump to the conclusion that that fellow is worthless. If you do that, you have ruined your own capability, your own respect in the system, and also your own prospects of doing more efficient.